Well, happy December 30th, everybody. 2 days before the new year. And this just breaking news out of Yemen involving Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, places where I've been few times to both of them. Not Yemen so much, but Saudi Arabia and UAE. And these once allies that were aligned, if you will, in going for basic goals within Yemen. There's been a change, and Saudi Arabia did this. Let's listen in, and then I'm going to discuss after.
Between the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis is entering uncharted territory after an overnight Saudi strike that destroyed Emirati weapons and equipment that had just arrived in southern Yemen. 24 News senior Middle East correspondent Ariel Siran highlights the growing power struggle around fractured Yemen.
Saudi Arabia bombed a port city in Yemen overnight, but this time the Iranian-backed Houthis were not the target. The Saudi-led coalition struck the port of Mukalla, targeting a shipment of weapons from the UAE intended for separatist forces, sparking an unprecedented rift between Riyadh and Abu Dhabi.
It has been confirmed with deep regret that the United Arab Emirates loaded two ships from the port of Fujairah with weapons, combat vehicles, and military equipment, and unloaded them at the port of Mukalla without authorization, with the aim of supplying the forces of the Southern Transitional Council. This constitutes an escalatory step against our security and stability.
Al-Alimi, the president of the internationally recognized and Saudi-backed government in Yemen, ordered a nationwide state of emergency, announced the cancellation of the joint defense agreement with the UAE, and ordered all Emirati forces to leave the country within 24 hours.
This is huge. This is a big thing. These guys were jointly unified in about Yemen and a unified Yemen, right? Lately, this Southern Transitional Council, a group seeking greater autonomy or independence of South Yemen. So, in the southern part of Yemen, this Southern Transitional Council wants to have more independence there. And it looks like the Emiratis, the UAE folks, are supporting that by sending these weapons, and you saw the vehicles, military vehicles. And that coalition, that even though they were once aligned against the Houthis, their goals are no longer aligned. Riyadh wants central government restored throughout Yemen, and the Emiratis, Abu Dhabi, has backed local power brokers with their own agenda. This is huge. You know, this whole fighting in Yemen's been going on since 2014, 2015. You know, the civil war that they've been having, the Houthis and other factions. So this is huge. This is really could be a huge problem in this region and could create further conflicts, Arab on Arab conflicts. Um, yeah, this is something large. Let's just listen in a little more.
While we appreciate the previous role of the UAE and its efforts as a member of the Saudi-led coalition to support legitimacy, its role has unfortunately become directed against the sons of our great people through explicit support for rebellion and the fueling of internal strife.
The Saudi Foreign Ministry urged, quote, the brotherly Emiratis to comply with the Yemeni demand, describing the UAE's support for the Southern Transitional Council highly dangerous and a threat to Saudi national security. The Saudi strikes mark a new escalation in strained ties.
Yeah, so this rift, right, weakens that Houthi front and Kalala Houthis that are backed by Iran. And see, that's why Saudi Arabia and UAE were kind of combined, because the Houthis were backed by Iran. And one of their strategic things for both Saudis and the Emiratis is they feel Iran's a threat to them. So they wanted to go after the Houthis. The Houthis now can exploit this kind of change in strategic alliance to disrupt the coalition. Um, so in this coalition, they were partners with us, right, with the U.S. Um, so now we've got U.S. with Saudi, and this is a mess. Creates all kinds of competition, geopolitical competition. Let's listen to some more.
Between the kingdom and Abu Dhabi, who support competing sides in Yemen's decade-long war against the Houthis. While the UAE was originally a member of the Saudi-led coalition battling the Houthis and supported the internationally recognized government in Aden, recently Abu Dhabi has shifted its support to the separatist STC, which seek self-rule in southern Yemen. A sudden offensive this month against Saudi-supported Yemeni government troops has brought the Gulf allies UAE and Saudi Arabia closer than ever to confrontation in Yemen. And
so we've gone from the Sauds, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, right, a absolute monarch, right, and the Emiratis, right, a federal monarchy, right. Difference. There's a difference between those two. Saud's absolute king monarch, right, and the um, federal monarchy of the Emiratis, where you have like prime ministers and areas, a federation of monarchs. So two different mindsets, but joined together, coalesced to make sure there was a unified Yemen and that the Houthis were brought to heel because the Houthis were backed by Iran. Now this is fractured. There's a change. The Emiratis have said, hey, wait a minute. We support the Southern Territorial Coalition, these what they're calling in this video, the separatists, because there is a big part, and these aren't Houthis, but they want autonomy of southern Yemen. They don't want a coalesced Yemen. This adds a new wrinkle to the civil war that's been going on in Yemen for 10 years. So let's listen in and we'll conclude here in a little bit. But I find it fascinating. Having been to both those countries, I find it fascinating. I mean, I've spent considerable amount of time in Saudi Arabia and in UAE, particularly Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So I find it very, very interesting. They are two, let me tell you, totally different cultures. Saudi Arabia is much stricter, Sharia, you know, UAE, not so much, right? They want they wanted a softer approach, right? I mean, I felt more comfortable in the Emiratis than I did when I was in Saudi Arabia, for example.
rather than joining forces and going after the Houthis, the Arabian Peninsula is now in turmoil, highlighting the growing power struggle between the Saudis and Emiratis.
Stuart, Jakob Lappin here talking about this fascinating, set of developments here. But I want to, Jakob, to bring in the Israel angle for our viewers, okay, to this current Yemen, whatever you call it, campaign situation. After all, we're double featured in the Houthi banner slogans. We're allied with United Arab Emirates, and we're seeking to get closer with the Saudis.
Right.
How do we think Israel fits in this picture?
First of all, this, from an Israeli perspective, is very unfortunate. What we want is a united front against the Iranian-backed Houthis so that we can remove this threat on the Red Sea and free shipping, which affects every sane country in the region, definitely us in a lot, which has suffered from the Houthi terrorist and pirate-like activity. And of course, the Gulf countries have also been attacked by the Houthis. Both this.
Yeah, I didn't talk about how it affects Israel, right? This gentleman, he's a security analyst for Saudi Arabia, for Israel. He's on Israeli TV a lot, um, but he brings up a good point. They wanted a unified Yemen that would take the threat away from the Red Sea because of the issues of trade, right? Moving things along through the oceans there. So this is not good for Israel either.
Saudis and the Emiratis. So seeing this is very unfortunate. Now, look, the UAE has been actually very effective, I think, against the Houthis. They have taken control of a number of islands, very strategically located, which enable the UTC, which is one of the factions that's battling the Houthis, and it's the one that's causing the Saudis a headache right now from their perspective. To basically the Emiratis have been able to help them launch attacks against the Houthis through these bases that they're taking control over. Now, when you add the Israeli recognition of Somaliland, I mean, we haven't had anything official, but I think we can speculate with some confidence that this will enable the Israeli Navy, the Israeli intelligence community to set up a really strategically critical base in Somaliland, just a few hundred kilometers.
Yeah, Somaliland, just interject here. I mean, most people in the world, I think, scratching their head looking at this sudden Israeli recognition. But I believe, and if our viewers haven't done it, I recommend take a look at the map. I think you'll get the clear picture right away what the interest could be there in Somaliland. Huge coastline, directly facing Yemen.
Exactly. If you look at the map, it all becomes much clearer why Israel has a very good case in establishing even tighter relations. Obviously, there were relations before this, but now they're out, in full open on the table. And it's clear that Somaliland wanted something in exchange for this recognition. And so at the end of the day, I think that, it's clear that Israel will receive something in exchange for this recognition. The Somaliland, officials obviously were willing to negotiate with Israel. Now, what Israel is going to get, again, officially, we don't know, but it seems, very likely that this will make it much more convenient for Israel to operate against the Houthis from the Red Sea, the southern Red Sea area, instead of having to send, ships, missile ships.
This is another big, huge part of this. The whole Somaliland recognition by Israel. I mean, yeah, that's like land grab, right? That's how it seems to me. So we'll see.
Submarines, intelligence assets, very far south, 2,000 kilometers far south.
Expensive, risky, right, to get all these assets.
Yeah, and exactly. So this is a major move, and I think that the UAE would quietly be welcoming this development as well. So we definitely want all of the moderate Sunni Gulf countries working together with Israel, with the United States, put the Houthis in their place, and hopefully to overrun them and enable the the proper Yemenite government to take control of all of Yemen. That would be the end goal. This is a step backwards. This is very unfortunate.
We mentioned, just briefly, the United States. I guess that's the leadership we're all going to sort of turn to now to see how, or perhaps will, the U.S. manage these allies, manage this crisis in some way.
Right.
Yaakov Lapin, thanks for being with us on this, and we'll see you in the hours to come.
All right. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Big, big, big things happening over in the Gulf states. It just shows you how complicated that whole area is. As a retired Army officer, I've seen it up close firsthand a lot of my life, and it just continues to boggle my mind as I think about all the different factions and things that are going on there. So, hey, stay tuned. Let's see what America does. I wonder what our Department of War will do on this. We can't, in my opinion, cannot afford Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis to be at odds. We need the Sunni states aligned, as that gentleman Lapin just said. Not only for our support of Israel, but support of peace in that entire area, for shipping along the Red Sea and other moderation of the Arab states. So with that, I'll say adieu. Have a good day. Happy Tuesday. Hope you all have a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Be safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Hey, hit me up and like, comments, and let me know if you like this content. I want to share more of this kind of stuff with you, but you let me know what you want to see. I talk about veterans issues a lot because I'm a vet. I talk about our own, we as American soldiers, but also talk about world conflicts, um, because they shape. We can't just put our head in the sand. They shape what happens here in America. So, anyways, have a fantastic day. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.